And hello, everyone. Welcome to the People's United Bank postgame show. I am Michelle Yu alongside Vin Parisi and Tariq Turner. UConn earns their 6th win of the season as they defeat UMass-Lowell 97-75. It was certainly a group effort by Dan Hurley's crew, the tandem of Christian Vitale and Jalen Adams leading the way for the Huskies tonight. Then there's Josh Carlton with back-to-back games scoring double digits as well. It was a really nice, balanced effort by Dan Hurley's team.
Yeah, and 22 assists, Michelle. So the guards are passing to the bigs, and the bigs are kicking it out to the guards, and it truly was a group attack tonight. And you heard Dan Hurley in that post-game interview there. He wants the defense to catch up a little bit. Not really happy that they gave up 75 points to a team that they're much better than, but the offense is cooking right now.
You know, when the team is sharing the ball that way, it becomes contagious. You can see the guys are happy for each other's success, and that's a good sign because this is the kind of team that's going to probably play 8 to 9 guys because they play at such a fast pace. They want to push the tempo and get up and run, and that requires fresh bodies, a lot of energy, and tonight is another step in the right direction by the way they're sharing the ball.
What is behind this good communication by this team? Is it good ball movement? Is it that they have a lot of depth?
I think they have a lot of depth. I think they don't have a bunch of freshmen running around out there. Dan Hurley's done a good job at blending his veterans with his newcomers, and he's great at coaching continuity and chemistry offensively, and this team has it both in the half court and in the full court. And, you know, they're probably a little bit ahead on pace offensively to where he thought they'd be late November. Obviously, they got to catch up in December, but 8 threes tonight, really sharing the rock.
Yeah, you know, I think you're going to continue to see an adjustment or an improvement in the balance scoring. I mean, you saw Carlton with another strong game, and those are the kinds of things that you want to see. As they get ready for Arizona, I can tell you right now, they're not going to beat Arizona if they just depend on their guards. They're going to need some help in the front court. I thought Polly was solid again tonight with 9 points and a strong defensive effort. And then Carlton and Cobb, those two guys, along with Polly, when they play well, then the guards have less pressure to produce, and that's when you're seeing the overall team effort, which is what you want to see.
Well, and think about in the pregame show, we kept saying who's going to be that second option to Jalen Adams offensively. Tonight you had Vitale dominate the first half, and then obviously Tariq Gilbert's basically your player of the game. So he has such a deep perimeter.
Well, that's a great point, and that's the thing. We've been talking all season long about who can help Jalen Adams out. Now that, you know, there are so many options, is the pressure kind of off, and it helps Jalen Adams get a better each game?
Well, what I see from Jalen is he's not forcing shots. He's taking his time. He's still going to be aggressive. He still has to be that alpha dog because he is that player that every team needs. When the shot clock's winding down or they need a big shot, he's going to be that guy. But he's also spreading it around in transition. He's giving the ball up. He's sharing the ball. And I also think that when you have 4 quality guards and the addition of Tariq Gilbert, that's huge because now you have another playmaker that can take pressure off a guy like Adams who doesn't have to handle the ball as much.
Well, and I agree with what Tariq mentioned in the pregame show is that, you know, not to take anything away from a Cobb or a Carlton, but I think there's going to be so many stretches during conference play to where Tyler Polly is going to play up front and Dan Hurley is going to come at you with a 4-guard attack. And the fact that he has so many interchangeable parts, guys that could be a scoring point guard and guys that could play off the ball at the 2 spot, that's what makes this the deepest perimeter in the league.
All right, let's check now in at the game stats in this one. Christian Vitale and Jalen Adams combined for 38 points in this one. 4 players in double-digit scoring for the Huskies. Tariq Gilbert with a nice contribution, too, adding 15 points. The team shooting the ball at 50%. For more on the game, we send it back to Stores with Gary Apple and Tim Welsh. Gentlemen.
All right, Michelle, we thank you. And the one thing Danny Hurley's got to love, the unselfishness. And we heard the guys talking about it a moment ago. 22 assists on 37 made baskets. That will make any coach smile.
Absolutely. Right out of the gate tonight, making it extra passes we talked about. And they know where they're supposed to be on the floor, the spots. They fill those 4 spots on the perimeter from corner to corner. They run their big to the rim. They space it so the big has the ability to roam down in the box. And on the perimeter, the guys have room to dribble drive to the basket. If the help doesn't come, they can get all the way to the rim. If the help comes, then they can drive and kick, and that's what we saw in the first half.
They're organized, right? You always hear about teams, can they get organized in their offense? They look very organized.
They're very organized, but now they have to clean up their defense, and Dan talked about that with Maria. And the thing is that he will pound them tomorrow. There's no doubt about it. You know, he's the Bill Belichick type coach where he will take a win and turn it into a loss very, very easily. I mean, everybody in New England knows Bill Belichick hammers Tom Brady for missed passes. Well, this is what he will do tomorrow to Jalen Adams. He will break down all those drives that UMass-Lowell had in the second half going by UConn's guards, because he knows, he's been there, that when they play Arizona on Sunday, if they play defense like that, if they're out of their stance, they're not going to be able to win. So he knows. So he takes the win, but he evaluates the win. He's got a great coaching staff, and that's why he's been successful, and that's why he's here at UConn.
So you mentioned Arizona, so that's a big game coming up Sunday down the road at the XL Center. UConn and Sean Miller's team, the Wildcats, coming in. What are we going to learn about UConn in that game?
Well, listen, we know a lot about UConn already. We know that they're getting better. They have a different mentality as far as a group team effort. Defensively, they play gritty, hard defense. They're just going to have to play big time on the glass. That's because Arizona's going to get up. They're going to defend UConn. They're not going to get easy buckets. They're going to have to execute in the half court. But they can't gamble on defense either. They can't overextend. They're going to have to play more of a solid rock defensive game. And listen, games like this tonight, you start sensing blood, smelling blood, and you want to overplay. You want to gamble a little bit. You want to get a steal. And sometimes those things happen. So you take those with a grain of salt, some of those errors defensively. But they're going to have to be more traditionally solid in the half court defensively against Arizona.
Well, an important game for UConn coming up, early season game coming up on Sunday down the road again at the XL Center. That's it for us. For Tim Welsh, I'm Gary Apple. Let's send it back to Michelle and the gang in New York.
All right, thank you so much, Gary. Now, we talked about the balanced effort. Gary and Tim talked about the balanced effort, 22 assists in the game, but it's about that one player that gets this team going. And in this game tonight, it was Christian Vital, who had a pretty big first half. He had 19 against Cornell, also 19 points on this evening. How important is his impact?
Well, it's important for the reason that you don't want to always depend on Jalen Adams. And Vital is one of the more experienced upperclassmen on this UConn team. And he came out locked in. He came out with the scorer's mentality. He took good quality shots. He ran the floor hard. He got his three-game going. And I don't look at him as a dynamic shooter, but he can knock down open shots when he gets his feet set. He's an aggressive attacking guard that can also space the floor. But he's also a guy that rebounds and does some of the little things that make him a complete player. And you saw that kind of performance from him in this first half.
Well, Dan Hurley was saying a couple weeks ago that he makes him want to pull out his hair sometimes when it comes to shot selection, but I think it's improved. I think he's spending the time in the film room with the coaching staff and getting better and better at it. But one thing, Vital will not come off the floor often. Dan Hurley loves his motor, loves the way how hard he plays at both ends of the floor, and once again, another perimeter threat to take heat off of the other guys.
Well, he's now considered more of one of the seasoned players, too, so he has to lead this team as well, along with Jalen Adams. And still to come on the People's United Bank postgame show, we'll hear from the head coach, Dan Hurley, on his team's win, and we will also preview what is coming up for the Huskies. That's all straight ahead as UConn gets a 97-75 win over UMass-Lowell. Stay with us. UMass-Lowell at UConn. Dan Hurley and the Huskies looking to stay undefeated at home. First half here, UConn already leading 12-4. Tariq Gilbert with a nice bounce pass to Christian Vital. He gets the bucket off the glass. Huskies up 10. Then later on, Vital with a big first half, knocks down 3 from up top to go up 13. And then we see some nice ball movement. 3 players touch the ball before Vital hits another big triple.
Ball not sticking, as Dan Hurley says, and as Gary Apple says, all nylon. One of 4 trays that Vital hit tonight.
And still in the first half now, UConn up 24-9. The good passing continues. Vital once again with the big 3-ball. He had 17 points in the first half. And then with UConn up 16, Gilbert drives, gets the layup to go. UConn cruising, but it would get closer as UConn only led by 10 at the half. So moving on now to the second half here. Jalen Adams, quiet in the first half in foul trouble. He came alive after 20 minutes. Adams takes it coast to coast, gets the fancy bucket off the glass there. And then here, Adams driving, scoops it in for the bucket as the Huskies go up by 17 points. And then soon later, Gilbert comes up with the steal, goes behind the back. Nice pass there to Yahweh for the lay-in, Tariq.
Yahweh, my main man from St. John's, transferring to UConn, making his impact felt in transition.
I knew you had good things to say about him.
Yep,
And Adams back at it, flies in for the steal and gets the big monster dunk. UConn in full control here, and then more razzle-dazzle. Terrence Smith throws it up to Adams. He has the nice touch off the glass as Adams finishes with 19 points. UConn gets the W, a 97-75. Now the win improves UConn to 6-1 on the season. It was another balanced effort for Dan Hurley's team. The Huskies once again scoring more than 90 points in this game. This was the 4th time in 7 games they've managed that kind of offensive production. Here's Maria Marino with Tariq Gilbert.
Tariq, you just got a hug there from Coach Hurley. How'd that feel?
I felt great, especially after this win. There's still a lot of things we could work on as a team, but we came out with the win.
Your personal performance, you did a little bit of everything tonight. How did you feel about it, especially in comparison to previous games?
I feel like it's always something I could work on. I could definitely be a better leader on and off the court, and that's something I'm definitely emphasizing.
What's the mindset that coach is instilling in you guys in the second half, especially when you guys did have quite a lead?
Defense and stops. As long as we get stops, we get out in transition, run, make the game fun. That's what we're trying to do here.
What do you think you need to work on, and the team as a whole, in getting ready for Arizona?
Just competing and playing the same way. Each and every possession, playing hard, running the floor, playing defense, pressuring the ball, things like that.
Nice work, Tariq. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Maria. 5 for 8 shooting for Tariq Gilbert. Now, Tariq Gilbert, in the beginning of the season, he already had a chip on his shoulder because he had something to prove, because he's had these injuries the past couple of seasons. How impressed are you at how far he's come so far?
Well, and he's had the success of the past, remember, Michelle. I mean, this is a former McDonald's All-American, and he only plays 9 games in his first 2 years in college basketball. So as Dan Hurley mentioned there post-game, he's finally healthy. We finally don't have a year to where Tariq Gilbert has a major shoulder injury, and it's showing the type of guard that he could be. And I think when we get to American Athletic Conference play is when we could see some of his best basketball.
Well, the shot-making ability and the playmaking ability is there. I mean, you see it. He's made a point to take the pressure off of Adams and be that playmaking guard that's great in the open court and really good in transition, in the half court. But what really stands out to me is the poise. He has been able to take control of this team, and even though he's not a prototypical point guard, he's more of a scoring, attacking guard that plays the one. He has been poised under pressure, going back to the Syracuse game at the Garden, where he made huge shots, got into that zone, attacked the gaps. He's been able to do it against different defenses, and he's also been able to be a leader. He's a vocal guy who's been able to take some pressure off of Adams, and he's another outlet for Coach Hurley.
Well, and, I'm just going to add, those scoring, attacking type guards do not bode well when they have to walk it up and use the shot clock. The fact that Dan Hurley likes to play up-tempo and really get out and run, that plays to his style.
What makes him more of an asset, though? Is it his playmaking or is it his scoring?
I think it's both. I think that's what makes this perimeter so deep and so intriguing, is that there's interchangeable parts. And he plays well when he's with Jalen Adams, and he plays well when he's with Terrence Smith and the other guys. His style blends into what the philosophy of this team's offense is.
And he's shooting the ball well from outside. So if you're going to play against a team that wants to play zone like Syracuse, you have another guy that can bust that zone. You don't have to just depend on getting in gaps. You can reverse it, you can skip past it, and he can be another release guy for you. So I think he's really improved. He didn't shoot the ball like this coming out of high school, but he has improved his overall game, and now he's healthy. That's the most important thing.
And give him credit. A lot of players, when they're injury-ridden like this, they come out a little hesitant.
Right.
The first couple of games. You did not know the first 2 or 3 weeks of this season that Gilbert has had major injuries in his past.
Nice to see him respond after the past couple of seasons that he's had. All right. Still ahead on the People's United Bank post-game show, we will hear from head coach Coach Dan Hurley as he addresses the media in his post-game press conference. And also, we'll hear from the player of the game and talk about the player of the game, so stay with us. But before we go to break, it's time now for Lighting Up the Boards, presented by Connecticut Lighting Centers here. Josh Carlton leading the way in rebounds for UConn with 8. Vital Adams with 5 on the evening. We'll be right back. Your player of the game, presented by People's United Bank, it is Tariq Gilbert. He had 15 points on 5 for 8 shooting and 6 assists on the evening. Coach Dan Hurley must be happy with his performance. And speaking of the head coach, here he is in his post-game press conference.
So obviously just happy, any of these types of, bye games, if you could just avoid, ended up on the John Rothstein tweet of the epitome of brutality, so we avoided that today, which was nice. And obviously I like the way we shared the ball, 22 assists. It started sticking at the end of the first half. We had a chance to go in at halftime up 25, but we showed our immaturity, and just not used to being in advantageous positions like that. We handled it. I thought badly. I don't know what we got outscored at the end of the first half, but we had a chance to go in up 25. It's at 10. Incredibly frustrating, and that didn't have anything to do with the foul trouble. That had to do with our defensive mindset. But liked how we played on offense. Thought we shot too many threes, especially in the first half. But in the end, I just thought it was a dreadful defensive performance. If we don't get better at that end of the court quickly, we're going to be in deep trouble beginning on Sunday. If we guard at that level, like it's a grassroots game, and without insulting grassroots coaches, because grassroots teams play better defense than that. But just incredibly disappointed in our overall defensive effort there in the second half. We're not an offensive juggernaut, so we better tighten that up, or else we're going to have major problems quickly.
Is that just, you talk about on defensive end, is that just effort, or just sometimes maybe scoring and then not paying attention about getting back? But what do you attribute that to? No,
we got started fast. I mean, we started fast defensively. We caused a lot of turnovers. But as soon as we lose that, again, what Pop says, the appropriate fear and respect for our opponent, it just becomes, we start getting out of position a foot. 2 feet, our rotations, our closeouts get sloppy. We lose our integrity, and we just become irresponsible, and that's just a sign of a team that's not used to winning, doesn't understand what this thing's all about. We don't have, obviously, years and years of building winning habits in terms of our preparation, but it was just a lack of focus. I thought we played pretty hard, but we just kind of ran around, not obeying the rules of our defense. Nice grab. You righty or lefty? Right. Impressive.
I know. A lot of time you worry about Christian's shot selection, but in the first half when he made 3 in 3 trips, I think. Do you have to let a couple go when he's in a flow like that?
Yeah, he got a flow. I mean, and again. He's guarding, he's physical, he's just, he does things on the court. Obviously, the shot selection gets away from Christian at times. He takes some bad gambles defensively, but there's something comforting about, again, having him out on the court because of the level of competitor he is. If we could just kind of get him, when he doesn't have it going like that, to just be a little more selective and get a little closer to the line that we play at. He could even be more effective. So, he, even stuff like when we sub him because of shot selection or defensive mistake, I got to tell you, he comes out of the game and he accepts the coaching, doesn't ruminate on the bench. He's. I don't know what the perception of him is, but he's very coachable. He's so competitive he loses his mind sometimes. Yeah, Dan, can you first just, Tariq, did you see this as another step
forward for him in the second half, similar to last game? And if you could just address Sid Wilson getting his feet wet for the first time.
It's just Al. I just think with Al, man, it's you know, Al's just he's got to be patient with himself. You know, coaches. I mean, we understand what it is. This guy hasn't played a lot of basketball the last 3 years, so to think that he's just going to put on a Superman cape and be the guy that he was, like, you know, instantly is just not realistic for him. It's going to take him. You know, it's going to take him throughout the season to find the timing. You know, the shot selection, what gaps to attack, you know, where to spray the ball to. I mean, it's going to take him time, and I think he's been in a little bit of a rough stretch coming into this one where, you know, I think he's just such a perfectionist, wants it so bad that he's being very hard on himself. And we've talked a lot the last couple of days about just being grateful, playing with joy. You got your health back. You'll eventually get all your game back. Just be patient with yourself. So it was good to see for him today.
Was a 97-75 win for Coach Hurley, but it seems like he was still not very satisfied with this team. There were two things that I took away from what he's just said. He was feeling that the team was still lacking some focus, and also he was not happy about the team's defense. But can you talk about that focus? Did you agree?
Well, Dan Hurley, as we know, coaches both ends of the floor, and he's happy about the 97 points, but not happy to give up 75 points to UMass-Lowell. And listen, he's right. And the reality is, though, is that these are games that they're supposed to win. These are teams that they are better than. That focus will be back when the XL Center is rocking against Arizona, the same way it was there against Syracuse at Madison Square Garden. But he's trying to tidy up the little things now, which obviously could lead to bigger things when the level of competition rises.
Yeah, I mean, he used the word dreadful to describe his defense, and the reason he used that was because going into the end of the first half, he wanted them to build that lead and go into the half up 25. Instead, UMass-Lowell came back and cut it to 10, and that was because of small things, details. He talked about footwork and sloppy closeouts and not really doing the little things that make you a knockdown, like really good defensive team. And those are the things he wants to see for 40 minutes, not for 27, 28 minutes. When they play a team like Arizona, they're going to have it for the full game.
There was one positive that Coach Dan Hurley had to have been satisfied with, and that was Josh Carlton's play. Back-to-back games now that he's had double-digit scoring. How much does that help?
It's encouraging. I mean, we're going to talk about this a lot. The fact that the front court is not really being counted on to produce, especially in the scoring column. Well, when you have Josh Carlton going back-to-back double-figure games, 15 tonight, 17 in the last game, that's all gravy because he's really out there to be an anchor defensively, block shots and rebound, and then finish around the rim. But when he does score and he can seal his man and be a double threat, it takes pressure off the guards, Vin, and that's when you have a balanced scoring attack.
No doubt. You know, we saw it at Madison Square Garden with Eric Cobb in flashes, and now we've been seeing it with Josh Carlton in flashes. And this is a perimeter-oriented club. We know that. But eventually, when you get to those, you know, big-time wars in January and February, you think to play Mick Cronin in Cincinnati. These teams are going to bully you and be tough with you, especially along the baseline. And this is what Dan Hurley keeps reiterating to his team.
A good test for all these players at this point of the season. All right, we're not quite done yet on the People's United Bank post-game show. UConn does get their 6th victory of the season. When we return, we wrap things up as we look ahead at what the Huskies are about to face. Stay with us. Here's your drive of the game presented by Nissan. Second half, Jalen Adams going coast to coast. Gets the tough bucket off the glass there. Crafty move midair with the ball. One of many exciting plays from Adams in the second half. He finished with 19 points, and that is your drive of the game. And here's a look at the upcoming schedule for UConn. The Huskies welcome Arizona to the XL Center on Sunday. A week from this Saturday, the Huskies will be in Newark to take on the 15th-ranked Seminoles. 2 big non-conference games before AAC play begins. And it seems like Coach Dan Hurley is very focused on that Arizona game, saying that his team has to be ready, that defense has to step up and do better How much of a measuring stick is that game for UConn going to be?
He'll know a lot about his team and the maturity and the bigger stage like he learned at the Garden. But listen, you know a few things. You know there's going to be great atmosphere. You know that they're going to make shots, and you know that they're going to play hard. But if you're going to get a huge win this time of the year, you have to do the little things. Are they going to take care of the ball or turn it over like they did in stretches against Iowa? Are they going to contain dribble penetration? But most importantly, are they going to play the man-to-man defense which got them the Syracuse win? On the same page, communicating, smothering. If they're going to get the huge one on Sunday, it starts at this end. And you know, Tariq, after that post-game presser, this is what he's focusing on starting tomorrow.
Well, between now and Arizona, they're going to work on all defense. I mean, they're not worried about scoring the ball. They proved, you know, they're scoring 90 points relatively easy. Not to say they'll do that versus Arizona. But this Arizona team is loaded. I mean, they have a big guy in Chase Jeter, who was a McDonald's All-American, transfer from Duke, who's leading them in rebounding. Brandon Rudolph, the wing guard, who's another big-time scorer, who's leading them in scoring. They have 3 or 4 McDonald's All-American caliber players. So the talent level will go up, which means the performance has to go up. This will probably be their biggest test since Syracuse. So they have another chance to play at home in a packed crowd and see where they measure up.
You know, and their small guard lineup, especially if they're making shots, could really bother Arizona, especially in the half-court matchup-wise, spacing the floor, penetrating and kicking. The issue is defending in the half court and then taking care of the defensive backboards with the size.
How much do you think Dan Hurley wants to see his players really respond in these types of games, like that game against Syracuse, because this team showed what they could really do?
Well, I think what we've seen so far is Dan Hurley is a great motivator, and he's going to have these guys ready to play. He's going to have them in a mind state where they're going to come out with a locked-in mentality, ready to attack, playing hard defensively. And then the real key is, can they get balanced scoring? Can they take care of the ball? And can they guard? Can they guard for 40 minutes? That's the thing that I'm most interested to see.
Either way, a great experience with conference play right around the corner.
Yes, absolutely. All right, and our coverage of UConn basketball here on SNY will pick up back on Saturday night, December 15th. The Huskies hosting the Manhattan Jaspers. That is my alma mater, Vinny.
Oh, you got that one in.
Yes, tip-off for that game will be at 8 p.m. Yes, the Jaspers. Don't forget your Jaspers green that day.
Stevie Masiello.
Yes, of course, Coach Masiello. That will do it for our People's United Bank post-game show. For Vin Parisi, Tariq Turner, I am Michelle Yu. Thank you so much for joining us. We now leave you with some sights and sounds from stores in UConn's big win over UMass-Lowell tonight. Take care, everyone.
Here comes Gilbert giving it up. Christian Mattel, the bucket and the foul. Christian Mattel, he's shooting at rhythm. Christian Mattel is having a big-time first half. John Carlton, inside question. Jalen Adams, all the way to the basket. Boy, Jalen Adams just explodes to the basket. Jalen Adams gliding in and stuffing it down. Gilbert behind the back, and then what a pass for Yahweh, who finishes. Dan Hurley and company keep the train rolling down the tracks.